Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Crystal Hill, the CEO of Hill House Publishing, where we share the stories and the wisdom of purpose-led leaders and entrepreneurs who are here to make a bigger impact in the world, who are here to share a vision in order to raise the vibration, the consciousness of the planet. And so today with me, I have Alfina Lofaro, who is a co-author of our latest book, Beyond Coincidence, which has just hit #1 in the Amazon charts. Welcome, Alfina.
Thanks, Crystal. And yes, it is an unusual thing to actually say published author and best-selling author. So it's one of those
Yes.
new things to add to the way I'm introduced, and it's still new, so I'm getting used to it.
Amazing. So yeah, so you can now say that you are a transformational coach, a kinesiologist, master trainer, and international best-selling author. Sounds pretty cool.
And take a moment to breathe that in. Yes.
Yes. So I'm really curious, and I'm always curious about this question. Why do people who do what they do, how did you get into the work that you're doing now?
Oh, wow. So I think to answer this question, I go back to primary school. I wanted to be a primary school teacher. High school, I wanted to be a high school teacher. At university, I did an honours degree and I was going to go into a PhD at 21 and thought, what do I know about the world? I need to go live. So I made a choice. I made a choice to travel the world, go and have an interesting life and all that type of thing. And then in my career, there was always crossroads: education, psychology, and counseling. And at the first crossroad, I went off to go and live life and that kind of thing. And I ended up becoming an educator. And I veered away from psychology because I always wanted to work with people. I always wanted to help them grow. I've always been more interested in the human condition and the human spirit, but I was too scared as a highly sensitive soul. I couldn't be around sadness all the time. And I got scared. So I went into education. I went and lived overseas. I came back, went into education, played it safe. And then eventually coaching came along and I went, oh, there's a way to talk to people about their lives and study the human condition and add the spiritual and the human spirit in there. But I don't have to sit around talking about people's problems all day. I can talk about their futures. And this is like, I found the thing. And because through coaching, the style of coaching that I do and through transformational coaching that I do and the kinesiology, it's a self-responsibility model. And so they're all self-responsibility models where I can teach you how to fish, but you then take the fish and learn how to fish. I think that's the way that saying goes. And so I found the thing, like I didn't have to sit in people's problems anymore. I could talk about their future. I could talk about their lives, but with hope and purpose. And that's how I got to kinesiology and coaching. My first stopover was coaching, and then kinesiology has just been that icing on the cake.
That's beautiful. And isn't it interesting that, yeah, look, we have very similar journeys in that respect. For me, I knew that I was here to help people. Psychology was the thing I was kind of feeling into, but then one way or another, it didn't quite work. So I went then into literature and art and theater. And then came back full circle also in 2008 when I found life coaching and then embraced that, but now with the publishing coming really full circle, bringing it all together. So, and I think that's what you're doing right now as well. You're bringing it all together because you're, that gift for education that you have, that interest is the superpower as well, isn't it? And now you're connecting it all. So tell me a little bit more about that.
That's right. What's really interesting, Crystal, I just want to share with you that my teacher training and all of my undergraduate and even my postgrad is all in drama and acting. And when I reflect back on that, it's about the human story of the why people do what they do is why I was drawn into that. And you're right, it all makes sense. And even as early as my honours thesis, I wrote, my whole entire honours thesis was about mother and daughter relationships by plays by Australian female playwrights. So very specific. But what the thing that's all coming together is, yes, education, coaching, psychology, how people work. But the big thing that Beyond Coincidence has helped me to do is write myself into a clarity of the brand and what I want to work in. And ironically, I've been doing it, but not claiming it as clearly. So I want to get it really, like, I want to take my time and really explain it. So what I realized over the last 12 months that brought me to Beyond Coincidence was that I had learned and uncovered that we can live very deliberately in our lives to create what we want. I uncovered that, and this is not going to be a surprise to other people, and it's not magic. It is the time frame that I needed to learn it in. I learned that we're all energy, right? And we're magnets, and we can attract positive, we can attract negative. But if we charge our magnet to the frequency and vibration of what it is we want from the universe will show up with that. But if our magnet is negative or I can't or lack, then we'll attract that. And so I think, well, why not deliberately charge this magnet with all of the good stuff, and be the good stuff, so that I can see that show up in my life and attract the people and the places and the things that I want to be. So I've understood that the brand is about living deliberately, and I've been doing that. So just deliberately started writing a book, and then you came along and said, would you like to be part of this book? And I said yes, because that's what I'm doing, and that's what I deliberately said I was going to do this. I started doing it. You shown up. I didn't know how it was going to be published, and here we are. And that's what I've done across all areas of my life, is being very deliberate about it. Okay, so what I want? What's the frequency I want to vibrate at? Like, who do I want to be, so I can have what I want? And how can I like, love, accept, and know myself, so that I can be what I want to be. So, and that means all the yucky corners too, by the way. So that's what I learned. And from that, I think awareness and understanding about ourselves, but education on how to deliberately be those things has become the key. And what I've been studying for years and being fascinated for my whole life is how people relate to each other, how people connect. And I think in the book I talk about, my saying is that all of life is about relationships. So we have a relationship with our health, with our money, with our trauma, with our families, with our friends. We have business is all about relationships. We have a relationship with God, Allah, Buddha, universe, whatever we are connected to. And most importantly, we have a relationship with ourselves. And so when we get good at relationships, we get a good life, is my little saying. And so now what I am going to do is be very deliberate. Living deliberately is all about relating deliberately to oneself and the world around us. So the clarity is, I will be from here on, that's what I will be focusing on, is relationships.
Beautiful. I love the clarity that came from just the writing process. So there's so many things that you touched on. The first one, like, that I really wanted to bring out is that I don't think we can ever hear it enough, that we need to be that which we want to become. We need to become the magnet that can attract that. And you describe it in your chapter so beautifully. And maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more, because I think we need these reminders all the time, because we get so sucked into, oh, but I don't have this, I want this, and therefore we actually push it away. And the other day I came across this formula where it says desire minus resistance equals desired result. And so this is what you help people with, right? You're helping people to get clear on the desire, and then helping them to release the resistance through the tools that you have, like the coaching and the kinesiology, to become that magnet that will attract the desired result. And yeah, do you want to share that part in your chapter where you had that aha moment around who you needed to be, and how do you become that magnet?
That's great. So, the first thing I want to say is that it is all about the law of resonance for the people who are playing along at home and understand what that means. But rather than it's about being put out to the universe what you want and then act as if you've got it. And this is what we've always, like, coaching has taught us, and things have taught us over the last couple of years about the law of attraction, is tell the universe what you want, act as if you've got it, believe it's possible, and then see it show up. The law of resonance says, and I will quote Michael Beckwith because his is the one that made the penny drop. If the universe doesn't give us what we want, the universe gives us who we are, reflects back to us who we are. So the story I share in the book is that one of my mentors and instructors in kinesiology was with me. We were working on some gut health stuff, and we were doing some work on weight loss, actually. And I had a 20-minute argument with her about why it wasn't happening. I'm like, I'm swimming, I'm gymming, I'm doing like the calories in, calories, like all the science. I've got all the science. She goes, yes, that's great. I'm giving you a thumbs up for that, Alfina. Well done. You're very diligent at doing what you need to do. And when people stress a word, you go, oh, here we go. She's going to talk about being again. And she said, but look at where you're focused on all of this from. And I go, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, you don't want to be overweight. You don't want to be who you are. You're angry at yourself for getting bent out of shape, which the reason is all in the book. But you're angry at yourself. You're coming from a place of frustration, anger, lack. And I said, yep, because that's what helps me keep motivated. And she goes, well, consider that if you keep doing that, you're going to keep getting that. And I said, no, because what you're saying is that I need to accept who I am, be okay with. I said, how can you tell an overweight person to be happy being overweight? It's mental. I argued and argued. She goes, yep, that's what I'm telling you, because the more you focus on what you don't want to be, the universe is going to keep showing you that. Your vibration, your frequency is telling the universe, I'm angry. Guess what's going to keep showing up? And I said, but I can't possibly accept who I am. She goes, okay, so you're going to keep getting the results you're getting. And no, that can't be right. and they said, and there was this magical moment where I said, but I can't stop being angry. That's what makes me do this stuff and get out of bed. And because the hate is actually the motivation. She goes, yeah, that's what's going to keep happening. Things for you to hate and things for you to be motivated about. And I suddenly just went, I get it. I hear you. I understand. So that whole saying of we need to be what we want to see in order to get what we want, all of the sayings, everything finally made sense. The challenge then became, and this is what you just said before, Crystal, is yes, to identify what you want to be, but then know, like, love, celebrate who you are and accept who you are right now. That's the real work. That's the real work. And in there, as you mentioned before, there's some unconscious patterns, some beliefs that show up, some ways of being that may not be helpful, and the ways that we relate to ourselves and other people that are from our past or from our traumas or from the culture that we grew up in. That's the real work, is learning about that.
So what is your secret sauce that you use when you are working with your clients to help them live their best life, to achieve that thing that they want to achieve and become the magnet that will help them get there? How do you do that? What's your special superpower?
Really good question. So in the past, I would not have led with this. It would be something that I would have kept quiet or talked about, with science. But the secret sauce is I use my intuition to guide me to what the best thing is to working with an individual. But it's backed up by a lot of research and a lot of study and a lot of methodologies, information that is out there. I kind of sort of say I follow my nose, but then back that up with everything that I've studied, years and years of study. I've done, my coach training and kinesiology training, but I've also done research and study with the Gottman Institute, with another relationships expert called Alison Armstrong. I'm constantly watching podcasts. I've done so many quests on Mind Valley. I'm one of those people that my joy comes from learning. And so I guess my secret sauce is I'm an educator. So what I learned, then I can, it's not always a given that people can teach other people what they know, but that is what I can do. And I bring together information from all over the place, resources from everywhere, and support people to grow in that way. And I guess one of the things, the newest thing that I've added to my repertoire around this, specifically around myself, is a bit of a trifecta: compassion, forgiveness, and there's a third one. It's right at the tip of my tongue. Don't you hate when this happens?
It always happens, right?
So my recipe for joy: compassion, forgiveness. It's gone. And that's
back. But yeah, it's so important, because when we actually forgive ourselves for being overweight, or forgive ourselves for not being as far along in life as we wanted to be, or whatever that the resentment is that we have, and resentment is one of those resistances, we can, and then give ourselves compassion for who we are, right? Then that is the prerequisite for actually becoming that magnet. So yeah, I love those two already. Did you get the third one?
Gratitude.
Strategy. Yeah, I knew it needed to be something that is more sort of logical than the other. Yes.
So gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion. So they're the things that I've practiced the most. Again, and people following along, they can do all the research. The research is showing us, and what we've kind of always known in the spiritual or the coaching world, or that the world of energy medicine, or energy healing, is now being researched and backed by science. But those three things are showing up to be the things that significantly shift our vibration. So when we can be compassionate for ourselves and others, we shift the way we behave and relate to them. When we can forgive others and accept forgiveness, we shift the way we relate to people and the way we feel. And when we don't have a lack of compassion, or we have negative energy stuck in ourselves, we vibrate at that. So demonstrating compassion and forgiveness to ourselves shifts that energy and vibration we have immediately around other people, but even in that relationship with ourselves. And finally, gratitude is the looking at my life, instead of, because I constantly had this issue of I wanted my life to be that, not this. And this is the biggest challenge I see in my clinic, is that people can often tell me what they don't want, and then they can kind of tell me where they do want to be. But in order to, this is the trick, that in order to be where they want to be, like loving, knowing, accepting, and being grateful for where we are right now, is going to give us what we want. But often we're looking at that thing that we don't want to be with so much self-loathing or hate, and the energy of that, or the process of that, is so negative. And so what I did was look around and go, okay, so if whatever you focus on, you create more of, I better start looking at my life really grateful, with a lens of gratitude. And that's, interestingly enough, they're 3 of the 5 cornerstones that I'll be talking about with relationships with people. Because whether you're in a couple, a partnership in business, or even that relationship with yourself, these 3 things, plus trust and one other thing, they're like the 5 pillars. I've called them 5 pillars of what is good relationship. So, but those are the 3 things that over a decade that I keep coming back to, that has the greatest shift in, or transformation in, people's way of seeing the world. is when we can be compassionate, forgive, and have gratitude. Yeah.
That's really powerful. I love that because it really, as you described so beautifully, it does shift our vibration, shifts how we see the world. It just helps us. Yeah, it helps us to shift. There's no other way of saying it, right? So if people were interested in working with you, what is your, like, I hate that word, what's your ideal client, but what are you most passionate working on or with? Who are you most passionate working with? What sort of things? I know it's about relationships.
Oh, this is such a good question. So what has happened over the last several years, let's say over a decade, is it's mostly been women. It's mostly been women. And I think that part of the reason for that was I grew up with all sisters. Men were a mystery to me, an absolute mystery, and maybe a bit scary. I know that that's an unusual thing to say, being someone who's married and has been married for 10 years, but they're a little bit, it's like, I don't understand you. You're a little bit scary over there. But over the years, over the last 5 years, I'd say I've come to understand men, a whole lot more as well. And so I would say most of the time it's women who come to me looking for help with relationships, but more recent years, it's males as well. And often it is literally that: dating, relationships, how I want love in my life. I want to share my life with somebody. And what's really interesting, I will add, is even when people come to me for money or health, it ends up being about, like, we get around to, so how about over here with this relationship thing? Oh, look, I've had no success at that. I don't want to talk about that. Okay. All right. And then with the kinesiology, for those of you who don't know much about kinesiology, the body will always demonstrate priority. And there will come a time when the body goes, yeah, you can't ignore this anymore. You need to deal with how you handle relationships and who you show up as in order to get what you want in life, in finances and health and those types of things. You need to actually take care of this area of your life. So it's anyone who wants to work on one of the relationships in their life, mostly with other people. But then I've also got a lot of experience working with people around their money, their business, and their health as well.
Yeah, relationship to our health, relationship to business, and money in particular, because I did a beautiful money workshop once, and the opening was, what is your relationship like with, how are you in a relationship? What's showing up? What challenges are showing up? And is that the same in your money story with your relationship to money? Are you equally absent from the relationship in money as you are in the relationship with a partner or husband or wife? And then taking it back even further to childhood, what was your relationship like with your parents? And were you feeling that they were absent? And like, that's been my story. Like, I didn't like that emotional, and so many of us haven't had their emotional needs met from our parents. And so the money now isn't meeting the emotional needs or the physical needs or whatever it is. So it's so fascinating, and it all comes down to these core relationships. So yeah, I absolutely love the work that you're doing.
It's interesting that you say that about the money one. I remember a particular money coach posing the question, if money was your best friend, how are you treating it? I'm like, I'm angry at you all the time. I think you're not enough all the time. I think you should be different. I should have more of you. I'm like, whoa, it can be quite in your face, some of this stuff. And I think you're absolutely right about that childhood stuff and the stuff that we've been raised around and the role models. One of the things that I've come to understand is that relationships, for many people, good communication and good relationships are by accident rather than by design. And they figured out or stumbled upon things that just happened to work, rather than, because where do we deliberately learn how to relate? It's the school of life. It works or it doesn't. And I think that on a big picture scale, we can make great shifts in humanity with those three things: compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. And when we show up in relationships really, really well, then that's going to have a ripple effect that is beyond our imaginations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alfina, I know that you've got a free gift that you've been creating specifically for the Beyond Coincidence readers. Do you want to share what that is and make it available to those watching here as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the free gift is the 5 ways to live deliberately. So to create the life you desire and deserve. And it is, I don't hold anything back. There's no secrets to it. I give you the 5 very good things that will help you, that you can do. They're free. All of the resources in there are free to use as well. And I guess what I want to point out with this is that shift in our energy, that shift in the way we are, so that we can attract back what we want. It doesn't need to be rocket science. We don't need to be dancing on in the moonlight. That's a good part of it, but it's not something that's outside of our touch. It's a choice to be deliberate about it. It's a choice to, okay, what are the ways that are going to shift my energy? What are the things that we're going to do? So in that 5 ways, we look at, what are you speaking into the world? What are you saying about yourself? Like mine was all, literally fat, dumb, and ugly. Why am I saying that? Because I'm none of those things, but I keep saying these things out in the world. So what are we speaking out into the world? So that 5 ways to live deliberately, you can find on Linktree. The Linktree is probably the best way to find it. So you can go to alfinalofaro.com.
Or do you want me to put in your Linktree?
If you could put in the Linktree, Crystal, that would be great. Because it is attached to the website, but it is designed for people to come via these. It was designed for the people that came through Beyond Coincidence.
Yes. So just briefly, do you remember what your Linktree is? Otherwise, I'll put it into the show notes if you don't. But where can people reach you? Can they reach you? So alfinalofaro.com, they can find out more. And there's also discovery sessions that they can book to find out if you're a good fit for their specific desires and needs and issues. And then the Linktree will get them to.
I think the Linktree is just under my name, Alfina Lofaro. So if they go to Linktree, they'll find it. Yeah.
Let me just type that into a browser and check what comes up. No. So I'm just going to do that while we're live. Oh, this is how you spell Linktree when it's Linktree. I knew that was a really. And is it all one word?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me see. I think that should work now.
Perfect.
Yes, got it. Yay. So I'll put that in here because the Linktree has a dot here at a really interesting space, and I couldn't remember that one, but there it is. So if you want to get Alfina's free, it's a masterclass, right? It's video content.
It's a webinar, masterclass.
Yeah, webinar masterclass on the five tips to live more deliberately and really become aware of your energy and what you're attracting and what you're thinking and how that's manifesting in your life. Then this is a really great starting point. If you want to dive deeper straight away, go to the website to book a chat with Alfina. And I think what you're doing in the combination of tools that you have with coaching and kinesiology and the teaching is just really beautiful to help people make massive shifts. And, I think you've demonstrated here that you're a great storyteller and have that ability to really make content come to life and make it understood. And if you haven't read Alfina's chapter, go and grab that as well. Beyond Coincidence is on Amazon, and she dives more deeply into that story. And it's just such an engaging way of reading it because you're drawing us into your story, Alfina, and then you're suddenly saying, so how about you? And then as a reader, I'm like, oh, me? Oh, yeah, because I was so captivated and engulfed in your story. And I was like, oh, no, you're asking me to reflect on mine? oh yeah, I do that too, don't I? So it's like, it's this really great way in which you're telling your story and then helping the reader create realizations about their own life at the same time. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend to anybody watching to grab a copy and read Alfina's chapter. Are there any parting words that you would like to share with those watching right now?
I guess, if anything, is that central message of live deliberately, love deliberately, and have a great life.
I love that. Thank you so much for your presence and for what you're doing in the world, Alfina.